Hi, my name is Liang Cho Ko. I'm a graduate student in philosophy at the University of Toronto, and today I want to continue talking about common knowledge. In the previous video, we introduced a paradox of common knowledge, the coordinated attack problem. A compelling line of reasoning seems to lead us to the strange conclusion that no matter how many messages they send, the generals would not be able to rationally coordinate their attack. How may we resolve this paradox? In this video, we will explore two possible ways of answering this question. As our discussion will show, both of these responses face some challenges. First, we could try to stick to our original reasoning and accept that it is in fact strictly irrational for the generals to attack, even after, say, 17 messages back and forth. Maybe our feeling that the attack would be rational is just an illusion, and no number of messages will ever make the attack rational. One worry about this response is that many familiar cases of coordination in everyday life are similar to the situation that the generals are in. Think, for example, of how we set up meetings via email. Like the generals, the person sending the email often does not know whether the message they send will be received or read. Yet we often show up for these meetings and expect others to do so as well, without sending countless messages back and forth. If we accept that it would be irrational for the generals to attack, even after they have exchanged a large number of messages, should we accept that our actions in these everyday situations are irrational too? If so, this might come at too high a cost. Fortunately, it may be possible to find some key differences between the general's situation and most everyday situations. These differences may also suggest some ways of understanding the relation between common knowledge and rational coordination. For example, one distinctive feature of the general's situation is that the risks that they run by attacking are very high. The general who attacks faces the prospect of catastrophic defeat if the other does not attack as well. Perhaps common knowledge is only necessary when coordination failure is especially costly. Since this is usually not the case for everyday coordination, we can hold that it is rational for us to show up for meetings if we know that the others know the appointed time and place, or even if we're just fairly confident that they do. This response to the problem does leave us wondering if the cost of coordination failure can be so high that when our messaging system is not perfectly reliable, no number of messages can make it rational for us to coordinate. After all, we need to factor in the potential benefits that we'll be giving up when we choose not to coordinate. This puts some pressure on the idea that we should accept the conclusion that the generals cannot rationally attack because common knowledge is out of their reach. Another idea that has captured the attention of theorists is that the coordinated attack problem seems to involve some unrealistic assumptions. For example, we arrive at the conclusion that no number of messages makes the attack rational by supposing that the generals can extend the same reasoning to each new message. This requires us to assume that generals can calculate what they know for each message sent and received. Consider what this would involve after 17 messages have been exchanged. The generals will have to reason that even though they both know that they both know that they both know, and so on, that the plan is to attack at dawn, they should not attack because they do not both know that. Or, in other words, because they lack a higher level of mutual knowledge. It should be clear that we should not expect ordinary agents to be able to go through such reasoning. Common knowledge may be necessary for rational coordination only for ideally rational agents who do not share our cognitive limitations. A problem with this response is that it seems to lead us to conclude that for ordinary agents to rationally coordinate, we need to achieve a level of mutual knowledge that matches our cognitive limits. Yet this is at odds with what occurs in everyday coordination. A message and a confirmation are usually all it takes for us to successfully coordinate. We will need to explain why sending a third message is not required for rational coordination, since most of us do have the ability to understand how our epistemic position would be improved by doing so. Therefore, a complete solution will not only have to explain why this is so, but also why the same may not be said for the generals. An alternative response to the paradox that does not require us to provide such an explanation might be worth exploring. Maybe we should reject the conclusion that it would be irrational for the generous to attack no matter how many messages are sent. To do so, we would have to explain where we went wrong in our original reasoning. One way to frame this question would be to ask, how many messages would it take for the generous to rationally attack? The worry here is that drawing the line at any number of messages seems entirely arbitrary. What's so special about, say, 5 messages, that rational coordination for the generous depends on 5 and not 4 or 6 messages being exchanged? There is another puzzle here. Suppose we say that it would be rational for the generous to attack after they have exchanged 5 messages. The problem with this is that the generous sending the 5th message has no way of knowing whether the message has been received, and hence no way of knowing whether the condition for rational coordination has been met without receiving another message. But this leads us right back to the problem we started with. We may avoid this problem only if we accept that it can be rational for the generous to attack, even if they do not know that it's rational to do so. Maybe sometimes being rational isn't the same as knowing that we're rational? In this video, we discuss one of the most important paradoxes of common knowledge. As our brief discussion indicates, there is still no generally accepted solution to the paradox. There is much to be discovered about exactly what common knowledge is, how it is achieved, and the role that it plays in our social lives.